Well, good morning, beloved friends and family. We gather today to honor and celebrate the life of Sylvia, Lorraine, Hamilton Ross, a life woven into the very fabric of Chebeague Island. Sylvia was born on Chebeague, what would be 93 years ago tomorrow. Her roots run deep, stretching back to 1756, and it is here on this very island that she lived out her life. Sylvia was married to Brother Ross for 57 years. She lived in the same house for 68 years. Family is everything to Sylvia. She's devoted to her son Gary and Nancy. They in turn are devoted to her and her memory, honoring her legacy. She was a caring wife and mother, always ensuring that a hearty meal is on the table when Brother and Gary came in from home. Sylvia remained close to her siblings. Joyce with us today. Darren is hopefully online and soon. As well as her many dear nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends. Sylvia loves to tell stories about the old Chebeague and her island childhood. Born during the Great Depression, she grew up with resilience and resourcefulness. During World War II, she even climbed the schoolhouse stairs to the roof where at age 12, she served as a certified enemy plane spotter. Sylvia immersed her life in island life, joining the Grange as a teen, becoming a lifelong member of the Chebeague Community Church, and helping establish the Chebeague Island Historical Society. She graduated from Chebeague High School in 1949. Sylvia touches every part of island life, from growing up in this very sanctuary to helping create the Chebeague Historical Society, to serving on the Ladies' Aid, where she wrestled with practical matters, like whether the back room of the parish house was enough room for Mark Dyer to build an office. An office that continues Sylvia's legacy through her great niece, who now directs outreach from the very church she loves. Sylvia wrote, "The church has been an important part of my life since childhood. From Sunday school to high school graduations, the church, Chebeague's oldest institution, has been there for me. I cherish those memories," she writes. "Our community is very fortunate to have a place where we can go in times of need and in times of celebration. And we can watch our children learn lessons that will stay with them as they grow and face life challenges. I can't imagine our community without a spiritual center," she says. I so appreciate the prophetic words Sylvia chooses, a spiritual center. For indeed, the church is her center, just as it is for so many of us. It is right here in this pew where her great-grandsons or great-nephews are seated. Maybe it was Bertati's. My memory's a little fuzzy 2 years ago. But it was right over here that she sat and where I was introduced to her as Aunt Syl. No, I don't have the privilege of knowing her from her days younger. But Vicky, I am so grateful that I met your Aunt Syl, because in its own way, it was a magical experience for me. I remember the first time I stopped by the Commons to say hello prior to moving here. And Sylvia had forgotten who I was, but she noticed that I didn't quite look like most Chebeaguers, or family for that matter. And I walk in and say, "Hey, Aunt Syl." She looks at me, squints her eyes, "So how am I related to you?" I chuckled and I said, "Well, Aunt Syl, you're actually not my aunt. You're my friend's great aunt." From that day on, I stopped using the title of on and just introduced myself as Victor, the new pastor of the church, each time I visited. Followed by, do you live on the island? Yes, in the parsonage across from the church. To which she replied, well, that makes sense. She asked me how I liked Chebeague, and that kind of became our sort of Groundhog Day, my never-ending welcome to the island. Always greeted at the door of the Commons, whether she was doing puzzles or in the living room. Hey, you, come here. Who are you? It's me, the pastor. What are you doing? It was always a welcome as if it was my first time arriving. It became a special treat for me. We sometimes had lunch together, once with Joyce. We noticed the birds feeding outside the window, or she'd ask Caitlin to bring down her family photos. For what I thought she said the attic, but I understand that she didn't have an attic at some time. But I'll miss the way that Sylvia welcomed me to the island and the joy she brought to those visits. She remains in the heart of hearts, the very best of Chebeague. A matriarch, a symbol of doing, of loving and being. Sylvia, like those who have gone before her, embody the spirit of this island, just as Chebeague has always been a place of connection, love, and community. As we gather here today, we do so with hearts full of love, with smiles on our faces, and yes, maybe even some tears in our eyes. We invite both the sadness of loss and the joy of remembering the remarkable woman, an icon, a legend, who is known to us as Sylvia Hamilton Ross. It's a unique kind of grief that allows us to smile and laugh, even as we shed tears. Sylvia's life was lived fully and joyfully, and it's in that spirit that we honor her today. If you need, the UMH 895 has the Lord's Prayer. Otherwise, you can remain seated. And if you would like to join me, please do so with Our Father, who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. So we will be using hymn number 526, if you would like to locate that. There are hymns underneath the pews. There are hymns in there. It is hymnal 526. If you need a hymnal, please raise your hand. I'd be happy to get one to you. They're directly under the two ends of the end caps, or the pews. So feel free to locate that. We're going to take us back to church in honor of Sylvia. Anybody need a hymn? Once you have that, if you would please stand. It's the title of the song should be What a Friend We Have in Jesus. You can stand as you're able.
And grace to bear. What a privilege to carry. carry everything to God in prayer. Every trials and temptations, is there trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Can we find a friend so faithful, who will all our sorrows share? Jesus knows our every weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Are we weak and heavy laden? Comfort with a load of care. Precious Savior, still our refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Do thy friends despise forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. Thou wilt find a solace there.
Beautiful. Okay.
Hi, everyone. My Aunt Sil has so many nieces and nephews who love her dearly and who have been shaped by her presence in our lives, and we wanted to share some of these memories with you today. And I'm fortunate to be one of those nieces to share these reflections, and I hope what comes through is the enormous love that we share for the gift that was our Aunt Sil, and the inspiration we found in her exuberance for life on Chebeague. From Kendra McKinnon. I have so many wonderful memories of singing funny songs and great gales of laughter about some silly thing someone said. But there is one memory that never fails to amuse me about my Aunt Sil. Whenever she would come to my parents' house to visit, she would come through the door, and the very first thing she would always say is, "I can't stay long." Then my parents would convince her to sit down and have some coffee, and it would be, "Well, okay, but I can't stay long." Tomorrow, Aunt Sil, you would have been 93 years old. I am so thankful that you did actually stay long. From Vicki Emery. Aunt Sil had a heart as warm as her kitchen. This is where my memories of her will always be. A bit to eat may include donuts, with coffee, tea, or a soft drink, and then the memories of days gone by. Island life that in some eyes may have been difficult or hard, but were really lessons of a good life sprinkled with love and laughter. She so loved us, and we loved her, and those hours around her table when time slowed down will always stay in my heart. From Debbie Mileson. My Aunt Sil was a gentle, caring, loving, clever, and funny aunt. She will always be remembered by my family and me for the fun times during her visits at my parents' house on the island. Such a wonderful dear aunt and great aunt. She'll be missed so much. From Doug Hamilton. Aunt Sil was one of the most positive people of my lifetime, always cheerful and smiling and providing a kind word. I usually learn something new after seeing Aunt Sil, 100% guaranteed to be related to family history. She enjoyed pulling out some old photos or family information and sharing. When I was younger, I always remembered something from the sea was boiling away on the stove, filling the house with the smell of Maine. Whenever I'm boiling lobster, or a fine chowder is working on the stove, it brings me back to Aunt Sil. And from Jason Hamilton, when I think of Aunt Sil, I look back fondly on growing up. I often visited my grandmother with my father or alone when doing chores, mowing grass or shoveling snow, and Aunt Sil was more often than not there visiting and helping my grandmother. We would all talk for hours. In all the time I knew her, Aunt Sil always seemed happy to see me, and I never heard her say an unkind word. From Kim Collins Secord. Aunt Sil was so full of historical knowledge, she would share it with Audrey and me during lunch overlooking the beach. She knew of the orphanage girls summering on the island for a number of years. She was also one who took a turn monitoring the skies for enemy planes from atop their elementary school. She so cherished the nightly calls with her sisters. From Barbara Ross Ballard, Aunt Sil was a treasure, a real gift to everyone who knew and loved her. She was always a huge part of my life, my family's lives, and later my children's lives, and I loved her dearly. She had a very special way of making whoever came to visit her, or whomever she visited, feel very special, like nothing else mattered in the world except them. She would stop what she was doing and sit down at the table and be 100% absorbed. If I gave her a little gift, usually a pie or a bouquet of flowers, she was always so appreciative and would say how much it meant to her, and was never shy about telling someone she loved them, and she always had a wonderful relationship with the Lord. I'm sure if asked, she would say that the best gifts in her life were family, friends, her husband, who we affectionately called Uncle Bud, because Uncle Brother just doesn't sound right. And her most precious gift, her son, Gary. We love you so much, Aunt Sil, and miss you terribly. And from Bev Ross Murray, Aunt Sil was my across-the-road aunt from the time I was about a year old until I left home to explore the mainland at Life 18. Rarely did a day pass that we didn't see each other back then, but it was after Pat and I built our island cottage 18 years ago that she and I connected on a much deeper adult level. Such great visits we had. If I had to choose one of my favorite shared memories, it would have to be our frequent hymn singing sessions. She knew every word and was nearly pitch perfect in her renditions. I did my best to keep up, but mostly I would join in the chorus. What we lacked in musical talent we surely made up for in enthusiasm. I believe if nothing more, it amused the Lord. It certainly has blessed me with priceless memories of simple times shared with that sweet, dear soul. The island has lost a valued member of our community and a devoted, kind friend to all, and her extensive family has lost a treasured loved one. From my brother, Andy Hamilton, and his family, we remember like it was yesterday the sound of Aunt Sil's laugh. We brought the children over for a visit, then told her we were off to Chandler's for a swim. She said, "Wait right there just a minute." When she came back, she had her bathing suit and water shoes on. We hopped in the car, and by the time we unpacked, Aunt Sil was in the water first, doing the backstroke, and laughing as the kids were running in to join her. Her laughter will be forever etched in our minds. And from me, Aunt Sil was a daughter of Chebeague, a poet, an artist, an optimist. My dear aunt was all of that wrapped in a blanket of laughter and love. I'm so thankful for every cup of coffee and cookie, for every story shared, for every trip down the genealogical lane, and for every time when I'd visit, she'd say, "Come here so I can get a better look at you." And she'd put her hands on my arms. "Don't you look some good?" Or sometimes, "Aren't you a sight for sore eyes?" And inevitably the next sentence was, "Don't look at my kitchen, it's a wreck." I'm just making dinner for Brother and Gary. I hope Aunt Sil knew just how much I looked forward to that kitchen, that table, her love, her laughter. There wasn't a nicer sounding welcome than hearing Aunt Sil say, "Come in, sit down at the table, I'll put the coffee on." And as Aunt Sil was a poet, I think it's fitting to end with a poem from my cousin Bob Burns. Car rides from the boat to Graham's, laughter and card games, the taste and smell of crab meat and lobster too. Discussions of island life, the Cold Springs Island, who was related to who? My first baseball bat, a remote control car, Christmas time and birthdays, a cold deer camp and wait, genealogy, poetry, organ playing, oil painting, and artsy ways. Bike rides down the shortcut through the woods to her house, where Uncle Bud and Gary home. Lobstering was a full-time family affair. From Florida, I watched a national news celebrity from Maine who had Nabisco on the ropes. The island girl and her community demanded pilot crackers. The battle cry, "Nabisco, do something," filled the air. A creative, adventurous soul from a long line of love, a full life lived in her days. Thank you for all the love and memories and all the giving. We love and miss you always. And lastly, I'll close by saying to my Aunt Joyce and to my dad, Aaron, that we loved your sister so very much. And Gary, thank you for sharing your mother, our Aunt Sil, with all of us. We share your sadness. Our lives are richer and our spirits fuller because of her boundless love.
That's unfortunate to correct. Just a minute. Okay. So I am the oldest of the next generation of Aunt Sil's nieces and nephews. During my childhood, I was surrounded by family members, including great-grandparents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and more cousins. Gatherings in backyards or on beaches, celebrating birthdays or anniversaries at the hall, and coming together on the 4th of July were events that I may have taken for granted, not realizing that these were unique and not all families did this sort of thing together like we did. Recalling moments with Aunt Sil always brings me back to memories in my grandparents' backyard. I hear her laughter first. She is doting on her mom, my great-grandmother. Sorry. I'm yelling. She wears a bright outfit and tells a funny story. She is all love, big enveloping hugs, and happy to see everyone. When I think about Aunt Sil, I think about her stability, her devotion to her family and traditions. When I think about Aunt Sil, I see the role model that she was in this community, and how she served and supported numerous organizations in countless ways. When I think about Aunt Sil, I appreciate her creativity and gifts she gave through her written words, paintings, quilts, and beautiful flower gardens. When I think about Aunt Sil, I envision a young, adventurous island girl doing her part, even back then, to help her family and community. When I think about Aunt Sil, I remember her cheerfulness, her tapping toe, and tendency to break out in song. When I think about Aunt Sil, I feel grateful for her quiet strength, the lessons that she unknowingly taught us, and the love she gave. Thank you. I'd like to invite Mary Cushman up to share a few words.
Hi. As a number of you know, because you would meet up with us en route somewhere, Sylvia and I frequently went for car rides around the island. Roughly once a week, sometimes more often. First from her house, and later from the island commons. I'd pick her up and we'd go off for an hour or more. We rode slowly around, visiting favorite spots, stopping at the store for an ice cream sandwich. All the while, trading stories about life on the island as it once was, and sometimes still is. Sylvia and I became good friends on those rides. We found out what made us both laugh and cry. We came to understand what we valued most in life and what it would be hardest for us to lose. Over time, through our many conversations, it became clear to me that there was a very special spark of life in Sylvia. Many people have referred to it in what they've already said. That spark was well known to anyone who knew her, her family, her friends, and finally, those at the Commons who cared for her with such true blue affection in her last couple of years, even when she was ornery. The spark of life I'm talking about shone through Sylvia's sense of humor, through the many poems she wrote, through the paintings she did, but perhaps most of all, that spark burned the brightest in her love of Chebeague. Sylvia had a powerfully strong sense of place, of loving where she was and believing that she was exactly where she belonged. Listen, for example, to another poem of hers written many years ago. It points to changes in island life that she knew would probably come and that she feared. The poem is called Plight of an Island. If I should lose my habitats for wildlife on the shore and creatures of my woodlands for one to see no more, if I should lose my lanes and trails where people stroll and love to hark and hear a chickadee, a blue jay, or a dove, if I should lose my rills and streams, my marshes, or my ponds, my pussy willows or my ferns extending emerald fronds, if I should lose uniqueness for peace and solitude, for quaintness and for measure of land and what is good, if I should lose variety amidst my island throng, become Nantucket or Cape Cod, forget where I belong, if I should lose my way of life, my scenic views and such, I wouldn't hesitate to blame my people very much. This poem was signed Sylvia Ross with an exclamation point. Sylvia's love for Chebeague was almost a living force, and had been since she was a little girl. She and I had that love for the island in common, although, as she liked to remind me, my position was somewhat dubious since I started out like, here's a summer complaint. Fortunately for me, she overlooked that deficiency. I became even more aware of this spirited life force in Sylvia, ironically, as she was beginning to fade. And it got clear to me from the silences we shared. For instance, just about a year ago, she and I were down at Bennett's Cove on a lovely afternoon. The sun was dancing on the water as it does, and signs of spring were everywhere the way they are today. At one point, I rolled our window down, both of our windows down, wanting her to be able to smell the breeze blowing through. We sat there for a while, and I realized that once again, Sylvia had gone quiet. That kind of quiet and silence had begun to descend more often by then, the dementia having already stolen so much from her. Out of the quiet, though, as she looked across the beach and the water, and off to Deer Point in the distance, she said, passionately and clear as a bell, just look at all that we have. Aren't we lucky? Anyone who spent time with Sylvia in her last 6 months is aware that her ability to make sense of the world in comments like that grew weaker and weaker. By inches, and then by yards, she slipped into the arms of the dementia she suffered and finally was overtaken by it. That remark of hers about the blessed luck of living here on the island was one of the last completely clear things she said to me. And she said it with such spirit, such conviction, that it might as well have been an epitaph. Sylvia Lorraine Hamilton Ross knew who she was. Most importantly, she knew what she was grateful for and why. And she put as much of that gratitude as she could into poetry and paintings and being a loving wife and mother and responsible community member. Yes, the dementia got her in the end. But if you'd asked her when she'd still been able to respond, I am confident she would have said about her life, I couldn't have asked for more. In other words, despite the painful loss of her, I think we can draw much gladness from the grateful life she lived and from the brightness of her spirit. Besides, if the old saying about heaven is true, that heaven is not where we're going, it's what we take with us, then Sylvia had all the necessities. Her pockets were full of what she needed for her journey to the farther shore.
the sound of his voice is so sweet. The birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me be falling. But he bids me go through the voice of woe. His voice to me is calling, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
We'd like to invite you to share some reflections if you'd like. Donna, please stand.
I just have two quick things. The first is I can't have this service go by without talking about Sylvia's devotion to the hall. And Sylvia was totally responsible for the creation of the Chebeague Island Hall Community Center. Anybody who was back there at that time knows that it was a stockholder company. And Sylvia looked toward the future, and she talked to all the people who hadn't stock in that, and they trusted her with that organization going forward. And so I just wanted to, I felt that needed to be said. And what a story to go with it is somehow when we first moved here, Debbie ended up the president of the Chebeague Island Hall Community Center. And he came home one night, and he said, I can't do this anymore. I said, why? He said, we just spent 45 minutes deciding which kind of room we needed. That was Sylvia would want that kind of story told. My second quick story, and I've told other people this is my best Chebeague Island Historical Society story about Sylvia. We were working on a really complicated exhibit back in the day, and there were people like Suzanne Jackson there, Beverly Dyer, Sylvia Ross, and probably I don't think Ken was there, because if he had been, it would have a different outcome. But anyway, so we're all there working, and Sylvia says, it's about 3 in the afternoon. She said, I'd do anything for some Chinese food. Well, my daughter Rachel had an apartment at Woodford's, and there used to be this Chinese restaurant right at Woodford's corner. So I called her up and I said, what are you doing? And she said, well, I'm working. And she worked from home. And I said, can you run up to that restaurant and get that food and take it out and put it on the
Chinese food on Chebeague. Who else? Anybody else? Go ahead, sir.
I'd just briefly like to say, I've known, obviously, known Sylvia my whole life. Gary and I were best friends. I was down there when I was 12. And my mother still was best friends. I talk every day on the phone. And my mother had two wishes that she got had. The first one was to see what Bennett, her grandfather. And the second one was for her still to run down off the hill, Central, and jump off the wall. So maybe they're gonna do it tomorrow. I hope water's wall.
And tell us your name.
Mike Rose.
Mike. Thank you. Who else? Melissa.
So Sylvia has been in my life as long as I can remember. And I'm going to touch on three little things. When I was 12 years old, I sewed a mouse costume for Halloween in home economics. And when I went to Sylvia's house trick-or-treating, she had to get a picture of it. And that was a big deal back then. And I always remember how much she loved sea lavender and sea heather. And if I was around when it was growing, I'd always pick her a big bouquet and I'd give it to her. But my most recent memory of Sylvia is probably the most perfect memory that I'm going to carry with me. So we were playing music for the lobster roll luncheon across the street at the parish hall, and Stephen and Dana Bourgeois and the kids from Floyd, Virginia were playing with us. And you know, they started rounding up the folks from the Commons and saying it was time to go home. But we were in a real bluegrassy, you know, singing old gospel stuff, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And she wasn't quite ready to go home yet, and she made that quite clear. And Kendra stayed with her, and she stayed until the end, and Kendra got her home. So that is my most perfect memory of Sylvia Ross. She wasn't quite ready to go yet.
Beautiful. Who else? Amy.
So I knew Sylvia as a neighbor first, and then at the Commons, and two short little comments. She had the best Halloween for everybody, that all the kids couldn't wait to go in there. She individually bagged wonderful, amazing things. It was just such an important thing to her. And then later at the Commons, to really get to know her, we, as you know, have these little parties, and we learned really quickly that wherever we stationed, we had to station her in different spots because people could not walk in the building as they were like greeting and kissing the Queen's ring. So we had to strategically put her in different spots so people could walk in and out, and I just think that speaks to the person she is.
Absolutely. Who else? Let's see. Lila.
We've all heard how special it was to be welcomed at Sylvia or on Syl's kitchen table. And that welcome was very precious, I know, for every single one of us. But I also learned how important it was for all creatures, great and small, on Chebeague, because she would have at times a phalanx of raccoons and foxes and other critters, the biggest raccoons in the front row and the tiny ones waiting at the edge of the wood wanting to be fed.
Good memories. Who else? Anybody? Let's see. Want to give anybody who wants the opportunity to do so? What is your name, love?
For those that don't know me, I am Sylvia's double cousin, and I've been coming to the island for years, ever since I was born. And Sylvia was always here. Sylvia was Chebeague, and Chebeague was Sylvia. And later years, it was gathering around her kitchen table, which I remember most, and talking and reminiscing
Chebeague was Sylvia, and Sylvia was Chebeague. Beautiful. I'm going to invite John and Chip.
Just by way of introduction of this song, it was a long time ago. It was 30 years ago. So I was about 20. And I don't remember everything perfectly, but somehow in there, this is a mother-daughter relationship because the song was actually picked up when Sylvia would go and visit Ellen, and this was her. She must have said it kind of offhand when she left, but I see in the morning. My favorite line, of course, is it says, and if you listen, when you go home, think about this line and how Sylvia would have said it, I'll be around just about 10. You know you can hear her saying that. So she put together a poem and we put some music to it. And the other thing we did in the end was Vicky's Uncle Gordon at the end of a dinner one night up there had used the phrase, we're more to home. And probably some people recognize that. And I just thought that was a great phrase, so we put that in there.
Take a moment of silence here. So I offer this as our closing remarks and as a prayer. In the morning, when the sun begins to rise and the sea reflects its golden light, we give thanks for the land that holds us, the water that sustains us, and the community that surrounds us. We pray for the wisdom to cherish every moment, for the strength to face life's challenges, and for the grace to love deeply and fully, just as Sylvia did. May we walk in the beauty of this place, and may our hearts be open to its peace as we remember and honor Sylvia, who embodied all that is good about this island. Amen. So we
Okay, I've been asked to say something. So when I was approached to sing Amazing Grace, I was gonna play something nice and high and pretty, and then I was asked to bring in members of the band, and we did. We did a nice rendition of it in A, but it didn't set quite right. And we changed the key a little bit, and it just still didn't set quite right. So what we did was we picked up the tempo a bit, and we're gonna do it Sylvia style. I feel that it was divine, and when you hear it, I think you will too.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like
city and family, we thank you so much for coming to honor and remember Sylvia, Lorraine, Hamilton, Ross. We're so blessed to have you here today. We invite you to the hall, and as you can make your way that way, we will be there to share more fond memories and spend some time together. I believe the bus will be there for those of you who need a lift to the hall. And then for those of you who need to catch the 2 p.m., that'll be the only time that our shuttle will be running. We'll be leaving the hall somewhere between 1:30 and 1:40. Okay? With that, thank you all for being here. And may the spirit of Sylvia continue to shine in and through you. Thank you.
That was easy.